Welcome back to another episode of No Shame with Shane. I'm your host, Shane Fordham, with all these shameless sports takes. Jumping right into it today, the Chiefs and Ravens kicked off the NFL season last night in an escape win for the Chiefs at Arrowhead, getting it done 27-20. The Ravens almost pulling off a comeback win against the Chiefs, but just couldn't get it done on that very last possession. Now, an amazing catch by Isaiah Likely. The tip of his toenail just grazing the back of the end zone, calling for an out of bounds. The fact that he was even in that position and made that catch was amazing. If he made that catch and it was called complete, that would have been I know it's early, but that really would have been a contestant for catch of the year. That was an elite level grab. Would have been an elite level grab. But aside from that, the hero for the Ravens last night was definitely Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely was the X factor for Baltimore last night against the reigning champs. 111 receiving yards, 9 catches, 1 touchdown, a would-be touchdown that would have been a touchdown that was just a great looking catch, beautiful looking catch. Isaiah Likely looked like an elite tight end last night. He looked better than Travis Kelce. Dude was just unstoppable. He showed to be a short yardage guy and a big play guy. Which is huge which is going to be huge for the Ravens going down the stretch. They have Zay Flowers, who is a guy who can tear the top off of a defense, but having Isaiah Likely, who can get you a first down, but then can also turn a small play into a big play. Just off that touchdown he had last night, that yak touchdown he had last night, just taking the ball and running with it, hitting a little hezzy, finding himself in the end zone. Isaiah Likely is definitely going to be a vital piece to this Ravens offense moving forward. The way Isaiah Likely looked last night, he is definitely going to phase out Mark Andrews and take over that tight end 1 spot. Mark Andrews, it really seemed like Mark Andrews was already being phased out of the offense last night. He was being used more of a blocker last night than a pass catcher, and I know he is coming off that injury, that had him, that resulted in him missing a lot of last season. Isaiah Likely being healthy, of course, being that next man up. And after having the season that he did last season, the impressive season he did last season, especially in the playoffs. But I think we are seeing already that Isaiah Likely will take over that tight end 1 spot before the season is over. And I don't think it's a stretch to say that Isaiah Likely could very well be a top 5 tight end by next season. I think Isaiah Likely could very well be in that elite company next season. He is in for a monster year this year. You can see the connection that Lamar has with Likely. You can see how much Lamar Jackson trusts him to make plays. Likely has a bright future ahead of him for sure. We're talking about a tight end who seems to have the athleticism of a slot receiver, which is how the Ravens used him last night in a couple of different moments in last night's game. So Isaiah Likely being a security blanket for Lamar, who can also be a big play guy, is going to mean the world for Lamar, especially when it comes to playoffs. With that being said, you could definitely see where this offense still has kinks that they need to work out, especially when navigating this dynamic between Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. You look at this superstar backfield. These are 2 guys who are used to running the offense in 2 different ways, right? Derrick Henry, a strong power back who is used to a power I formation offense, a quarterback under center offense, having a running start to be able to puncture a line of scrimmage, go for a 10, 15-yard run or just a first down run, being able to demoralize and continuously pound a defense into the ground. Lamar Jackson being a dual threat quarterback who is used to running the offense from a gun formation, which is a dual threat QB's best friend. The gun formation allows for Lamar to do many different things in the backfield. He can attack a defense with the pass. If no one's open, he can make something happen with his legs, extend the play with his legs, get the first down plus an additional 10 to 15 yards down the field. He can give it to the running back for an inside inside run off a power counter block from a pulling guard, or he can run the read option, giving him even more freedom in the backfield, being able to read a defense and knowing when to call his own number and just tuck it and run, following a lead pulling Y blocker, off tackle, maybe in between tackle. I mean, he can even call his own number on a design QB run play. We saw a couple of QB draws last night, where the line pulled towards the boundary, and Lamar just followed the pile, So there are different things that a gun formation allows Lamar Jackson to do within the offense. But it is also, it's a balance that John Harbaugh and the OC for the Ravens need to figure out in order for this Ravens offense to really be as versatile and as dangerous as they can be this season. Because in order for the Ravens to really have a shot this year at an AFC championship, let alone a Super Bowl, is for Derrick Henry to be a factor. And Derrick Henry cannot be a factor if he is being forced to run within a heavily gun-operated offense. A gun formation is really the worst enemy for a running back like Derrick Henry. He's a bigger guy who is not someone who makes a lot of jump cuts behind the line of scrimmage in order to find lanes, So he's a bigger guy with longer legs. So out of a gun formation, inside zone runs makes it a lot easier for a defense to stop a back of his size, allowing them to get around those legs, get him on the ground, especially going up against a defense who has a strong interior line like the Chiefs with Chris Jones, having having one of the better linebackers and linebacker cores in the league with Nick Bolton, having DBs who aren't afraid to come in and get physical and make a tackle against these running backs like Trent McDuffie, so it's definitely something that the Ravens need to figure out, a balance that they need to discover and come up with in their game plan in order for this Ravens offense to get going. Because the Ravens have to get Derrick Henry going early if they want to make noise this season. This is a guy who's used to getting 20 touches a game, 15 to 20 touches a game, sometimes more, carrying the offense on his back. So it's going to be something that they'll have to work on in order for Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry to be able to function efficiently together in this backfield. Now, I know it's only week one. It's early. They have time, but it's definitely something that they need to pay attention to. Now, with that being said, looking at Lamar Jackson, we saw a few different things from Lamar last night. For starters, he looked way more in control of the offense than I think he ever has. He looked like way more of a leader. He was more vocal. He was making more adjustments. He was playing with an attitude last night. I don't remember the last time I saw Lamar Jackson just lower his shoulder on somebody, just out of aggression. It's not something you really want to see out of your quarterback too often, especially your franchise guy. But that type of energy is good to see in this type of game. You could see where he really wanted his lick back against the Chiefs, his revenge against the Chiefs from last year's loss in that AFC championship matchup in Baltimore, but we saw something else out of Lamar last night too. Lamar Jackson is not a clutch quarterback in the NFL. He is a great regular season quarterback. He's talented, dual threat, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, can beat you with his legs, can beat you with his arm. But he is not a clutch quarterback who, in those big time moments in a game, cannot make the play to either seal or win the game for his team. We saw that. I mean, we saw that just last night. 2 throws Lamar Jackson missed that could have tied that game up and sent it to overtime, possibly resulting in an overtime win. I mean, he missed Zay Flowers in the back of the end zone by a mile, who was wide open. Then he missed Isaiah Likely in the left back corner of the end zone, who had a lead on his defender, who could have made that toe drag catch for the tie. And then we see it in Lamar Jackson's playoff history. I mean, Lamar Jackson's numbers, passing numbers, significantly decrease in the playoffs. His passer rating decreases in the playoffs from a 98% in the regular season to now throwing to a 75.5 to a 75.7% in the playoffs. His average yards per attempt decreased in the playoffs to a 6.8 average of yards, going from a 7.5 regular season of yards averaged. He has 126 passing touchdowns in the regular season with only 45 interceptions. In the playoffs, he's 6-6. He has as many turnovers as he does touchdowns, and that's not counting fumbles. So Lamar Jackson is clearly a different player, a different beast in the playoffs than he is in the regular season. And if the Ravens really in order for them to really have a shot at competing for a championship this season, that's got to change. Lamar Jackson has to improve his clutch factor if the Ravens have any hope at a shot this year, because clearly that's not going to win in a game versus a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes. But Patrick Mahomes isn't the only other clutch quarterback that they have to see coming out of the AFC. They also have to see Joe Burrow and company. Joe Burrow, who is back healthy, who will most likely have Jamar Chase back this season, who has T. Higgins. We know Joe Burrow is clutch. So Lamar Jackson could very easily be a Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing type of player to Patrick Mahomes' Michael Jordan. A player who is a superstar, one of the best players in the league, but who just can't knock Michael Jordan out of the way, can't knock the best out of the way, the greatest out of the way. Until Lamar Jackson improves his clutch factor, that is not going to change. He is forever going to be the Karl Malone and Patrick Ewing of the league until, at least while Patrick Mahomes is still in his prime. But then he not only has to worry about Patrick Mahomes as Michael Jordan, he also has to worry about Joe Burrow, another clutch quarterback in the league, who is the only quarterback in the AFC who has shown being capable of beating Patrick Mahomes. So in order for the Ravens to really have a shot, Lamar Jackson has to change his clutch factor and winning ability when it comes to these big time games, big time moments like we saw last night and like we've seen from him in the playoffs. Now, another quarterback that does come to mind who would have been able to make those throws to win the game or tie the game is Jalen Hurts. As opposed to Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts' numbers go up in the playoffs. Where Lamar Jackson decreases, Jalen Hurts elevates. Lamar Jackson has more playoff losses than Jalen Hurts does. Lamar Jackson is 2-4. Jalen Hurts is 2-2. Jalen Hurts has a better playoff passer rating than Lamar Jackson, throwing with an 85.9% to Lamar Jackson's 75.7%. Hurts has a better touchdown to interception ratio in the playoffs than Lamar Jackson. Hurts has a higher completion percentage in the playoffs than Lamar, throwing with a 64.2% to Lamar Jackson's 57.4%. So where Lamar Jackson decreases in the playoffs, Jalen Hurts increases. That is something that Lamar Jackson has to change if he has a shot at coming close to a Super Bowl this season or in the next few years. But that is all for today's edition of No Shame with Shane. If you haven't already, Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms at No Shame with Shane, at No Shame W Shane. And I will be back next time later on for more shameless takes.